This conference will now be recorded.
I'll call the July 19th, 2022 Finance and Personnel meeting to order. Our chair is absent today, so I need a nomination from committee member for someone to chair this meeting.
Nominate Tracy Fluke.
Second.
Okay, motion carried. And Tracy, it's all yours.
Thank you. Terry, please take roll call.
Tracy Fluke,
Here.
Tom Selk,
Here.
Allison Burnett,
Here.
Kelly Service,
Here.
and Zerbel's excused.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Action on the agenda. I need a motion to approve the agenda.
Move to approve. Second.
Moved in second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Action on the minutes from the June 21st Finance and Personnel Committee meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved in second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Comments from the public must be limited to items not on the agenda, must state name and address, limited to 5 minutes. Board's role is to listen and not discuss the item. Personnel issues cannot be discussed, nor individuals named, and board is not able to take action at this meeting. I don't see anybody in the audience here. I don't think anybody is online either. So we will continue on. Consent agenda. The investment report from June 2020. Any questions on that for Greg? Otherwise, I would look for a motion to approve the investment report.
I would move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, item 8A. Yep, just a minute. Lost it. Action on the 2023 budget timeline. Can't believe it's that time already.
I know, right? I've actually been working on this for a month or two already.
I
So,
can believe it.
yeah, every July I come to the committee here and then ultimately the village board just to lay out the timeline. Nothing has really changed from the prior years. We, at the end of the day, I work kind of backwards. We do final approval by the end of November, so we wait to the board meeting for final adoption of the budget. And then just working backwards, some of these timelines are based on information that we get from the state. It's been early November sometimes, getting final assessment numbers and things like that, manufactured numbers. But there'll be a meeting on August 18th with the internal staff where we'll roll out all the documents, all the budgets. Mary, Joel have a chance to walk through any expectations, any changes of thoughts, anything like that. And then they have until September 19th to turn it in. And from there, it just becomes compiling the budget. And we start a series of meetings with each department head or responsible party to go over the budget, have discussions. We'll give an update along the way to the committee here and to the board. But ultimately, it's going to be driven by, tax rate, typically. That's how we do that. But this is just the timeline to get us to the end game. Our budget meeting with the joint village board and finance personnel committee will be a week later than normal due to the elections. So it'll be on Tuesday, November 15th. It still gives us a chance to make any modifications. If there's anything out there, we can still have 2 weeks to get that done. This is just information only, or if there's anything you want to add to it, we could do that as well.
I understand this is just a timeline, Greg, but is there anything you see at this point that's going to be challenging for the budget for 2023? Just overview at all.
No, I don't think so. I think we're fortunate to have ARPA funds to help with some major projects. I think there'll be, as there has the last year or two, a number of positions asked for. So that'd probably be the biggest thing to work through, prioritizing those and how we can work those into the budget. But no, I don't anticipate anything being.
How much ARPA funds are left again? I forget, 700 though, or?
We received a total of about 1.75 million. And we're in the middle of bidding out projects We're going to have to revisit that. We will later this summer, just because bids are coming in so high.
Yeah.
We're going to have to revisit what we budgeted last year and then plan out the next couple of years.
You don't see any problems with Doug's potential replacement in preparation of the budget, or does the staff pretty much handle that?
Well, as you probably know, Doug is extremely organized, so he left things pretty well, and I think Steve has a pretty good feel for what's out there. We have long-term capital plans out there, so typically we just pull those up, and we haven't strayed too far from those, which is nice. So I think we'll be okay. I think we'll internally
Okay.
figure it out, yeah.
Any other questions on the timeline, Greg? So that's informational only. Thank you, Greg.
Do we need to approve it? It says recommended was
I'm sorry.
approved. I would make a motion to approve the 2023 budget timeline.
Thank you.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Allison, for catching that. Okay, 8B, Village of Ashwaubenon 2021 Audit Review.
So it was requested that we come before the Finance Personnel Committee to go through the audit review. I apologize that we don't have the audit firm doing this. We can look at doing that next year. They're very, very busy this time of year doing these meetings. I think John from Baker Tilly said it was his sixth one that week. So I don't want to have him drive up. So I can give a brief overview of what's going on. I think the biggest
Craig?
thing, yep.
My suggestion would be that members of this committee would attend the board meeting when they present,
Okay.
because I don't think they should have to come up here twice or
Okay.
anything. That would be my suggestion.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
or
fine.
use
There's only two
the
members,
the
that would,
WebEx.
Or he could do a WebEx, right?
so, okay, sorry to interrupt, but
No, that's okay. So the short of it is, the village, I think if I had to go one line, the village is in very good financial health, and that he made that statement. So when we go through this, I think it sometimes is just being fair and honest, and some of these could be a little bit picky, but that's okay. It's good to go through an audit and make sure that they're going through everything. The village has always had very strong fund balances, and I think that's key, and we are maintaining that. The water and sewer utilities have come down over the years, but we've addressed that through PSC rate reviews, so those rates will go up, and there's a plan there to build those fund balances back up. So I'm going to stick mostly to the general fund. I think that's our primary fund, and there was an attachment. It's a 7-page document. It's kind of his summary, if you will, and it starts out on the general, and that is the audit financial statement highlights document. So from there, we see our fund balance. We have a fund balance policy that we have 20% fund balance for the next year's, 20% of next year's expenditures. So if we had 20 million of expenditures, we should have a $400,000 fund balance, something like. So 4 million balance. We ended the year at just over $6 million fund balance. And so it's very, very strong. We're sitting around 32%. In fact, we had budgeted in 2021 to actually dip into that fund balance, $325,000, and we still would have maintained greater than 30% fund balance. So we actually ended the year better, so we didn't really even dip into it that much, only $125,000. So there's that first chart. There's different ways to rank your fund balance. You have unassigned, assigned, committed, restricted, and unspendable. Restricted are things like fixed assets. We have some committed dollars, if you will, to a project, for example, or prepaid items that just crossing over the year. But most of our dollars are unassigned, which means they're available for use as we need them going forward. So really, at the end of the day, the $6 million, very strong fund balance. Like I said, we're still well above our policy. And if you look on the next page, page 2, he was showing some kind of a reference, a median. And he's got communities at 38 to 41%, which is very, very high. Very high. I think Wisconsin fiscally is very conservative, and the smaller the towns, the more conservative they are. But we're sitting, as you can see, 32.7%, which is, again, is really, really strong for a community our size with everything that's going on.
Greg, can you tell what page it's on?
Oh,
so we
page
can
2.
get there?
That's page 2 of the 7-page document. There's a financial, I don't know where you're at on,
It's the back.
42 in the packet.
okay,
Yeah, it's 42 in the packet, but
okay.
that's the first one that is on this one. Thanks.
And so the reason why he talks about fund balance, and then the next thing we'll talk about is debt, those are the two largest items that a rating agency will key in on. They want to see your fund balance, what's your savings account look like? How can you manage if something happens? We'd be able to manage through pretty well. And then what are our future obligations? So maybe this year looks great, but what's coming down the pipeline? And one of those indicators is on page 43 then, I guess the next page. It's debt management policy. You have capacity of 5% of your equalized, or of your total equalized value. So we could, in theory, bond up to $143 million. Well, we're not anywhere near that. We're sitting at 58 million, and that includes all the referendum stuff. So we typically are very conservative, and most of our debt is tied in with TIF projects. We do not borrow for vehicles. We don't borrow for our annual road maintenance. If we have a major road project, we do, but typically that's within a TIF district. So we're sitting very, very well. We're at 40%. And that's on the next page, I think there's a comparable to your non-capital expenditures as well. And we're sitting real close to the median on that as well. So we have a lot of capacity to issue more debt, but doesn't necessarily mean that we should, but we have that out there as an option. And it's been pretty steady. We've tried over the years, I've tried to present during budget that we may obtain a little bit on the general fund levy. We're able to use some of that levy capacity during levy limits, and we can talk about more of that at budget time, but overall, we're doing well there. The last page is on here, he does get into the utilities, and I'll just say this, our fund balances we know have dropped, our rate of returns have been lower, we've been knowing that, and we just, like I said, finished up the water rate review, which was long and painful, but it's done, and so we'll be good for the next couple of years. We have a rate of return that's going to grow, and then over time, they look at, like your 5-year, spending plan over the next year, so they're making sure that you're not just doing a 1-year fix. And then what we'll do is we'll have to probably come back to the board within 2 years and probably start trying to do smaller increases along the way. We hadn't done a rate increase since 2005. So that was a long, long time. And the reason why is we had a lot of cash. We had a lot of cash coming in, and we were just drawing off that cash. So the rate of return is a little bit misleading just because we purposely were drawing off our cash balance to bring it down a little bit. But overall, the utilities are strong. The stormwater utility is very strong. The water and sewer are fine. And we will continue to monitor those closely and probably, again, have a smaller rate review over the next couple of years.
Greg, when he came to present, he talked about like how many months on hand you should have to have a healthy utility.
Right.
What was that he typically said for that? Was the same for all of them, or?
Yeah, it's usually 3 to 6 months. I mean, he brought up, I know they like to do, the very conservative side is 12 to 15 months, but then that's where you start sometimes getting into the bigger you are, imagine City of Green Bay or something carrying a 15-month fund balance. Then you're sitting up in that median of 40%, which is really high. So it's just trying to find that balance. And he said the key was you have a policy, which means that you've reviewed your financials and feel comfortable, and you're maintaining to your policy. And since we're so far over ours, it doesn't mean that we should change it. It just means that we're doing far better than what we think we actually need. But yeah, general fund, typically it's, you hope to have a year, and we're pretty close to that. So that was really the highlights. Again, it keys in on fund balance, rates of return. Our utilities are pretty status quo. Our largest expenditures come from the City of Green Bay, purchasing water, purchasing the sewer service. So as those go up, we just have to pass that. We have to take that in and pass that along. We've been maintaining at the same level of headcount in the utilities and, servicing roughly the same amount of lines and pipes, if you will. The second document, and I'm sorry if I don't have it in there. I wanted to touch base. If you hadn't had a chance to review the whole document, it's really worth reading through it. It is the reporting and insights from the audit. And that document, I'm not sure where that starts in your pages.
Page 12.
Page 12. So it starts out, it just goes through what their responsibilities are. There's some kind of their executive summary, and then it talks about an audit status, and there really was no change to how they came into their audit. They came in internally this year. Last year they did it externally, and it was fine. They wanted to come in, be closer. I actually prefer it. I think it's nice to have them here. You get a little bit more accomplished. The scope of their audit really is to check our processes, our operations, that we're doing what we say we're doing, and that we have controls in place, and that we're following those controls at the end of the day. They're not here to tell us what we can and can't buy and all those things, but they're saying, well, if you borrowed money for this purpose, are you using it the way you're supposed to be using it? Those types of things. A couple items that came out of here that, if you read through here, they seem concerning, and they are to some extent, but he said 95% of the clients have these, strictly because we don't have the headcount to have perfect controls across the board. So, that would take, in the finance department alone, 2 to 3 more people to maybe address all of that. But we have controls in place. What they're saying is these aren't the best, but for what you have, you're doing a good job. So you see inadequate segregation of duties. Well, we have.
Craig, is that new, you hired a new staff person recently. Is that going to help the situation? Because this is 21.
We replaced the existing. We still have the same head count within. So we've changed job duties, added more responsibility. But, let's take AP, for example. We have one person who enters all that, and then I approve it, and we have a backup. The backup also does AR. Well, you never want your AR doing AP, but that's what we live with, right? So you don't want the same person being able to bill someone else or collect money, and that's kind of what they're getting at. But then again, if we would hire if we hired too many people to cover all that, we might struggle to find something for them to do at some point. But so a lot of these controls are being addressed. We talk about them. I think the key is that the management response is that we are constantly working with them, and I will call and say, okay, well, how do you want me to do this then? Is there a better way? And it might involve maybe the village manager, for example, stepping in and doing some pieces if we had to. But overall, I think what they're getting at is you have some controls in that, but you're doing well with what you have. And they don't see anything they're monitoring it to make sure there's no issues, and there's no issues out of it. They're not saying that we have all these issues. They're just saying that there should be a better system for this and that. Well, we don't. It's hard. It's hard to do that with the limited staff. And they did point out a couple. They had a couple entries that they had to do, and it's towards the back somewhere, and those were addressed. I asked for their help this year because the prior auditor had used to do those entries, and then they helped me, but because they had to help, they had to make a note that they did something they're not supposed to do. And they also mentioned that they do our reporting, they help with the CAFR, and then they kind of say, hey, that's an auditing control issue, but yet we have a contract for them to do it. But they just have to put it on paper legally that they're doing that. That's basically committing. So in theory, they would audit all of our reports, not actually do them, but they separate within their organization who does the reporting and then who reviews it. So we're kind of covered in there. The document gets into also who the staff is and where they're all located, and how we communicate with each other. But overall, I think the audit went really well. They had no concerns with our operations. They said, you're doing very well financially, and it's been a good partnership with them. So
I have a comment about the material corrected misstatements. They're all to our benefit. The way I look at it, which is kind of nice. Unbilled revenue, that's a positive. So I don't, sure they're material in dollar amounts, but they're still to our benefit. I mean, we're going to get the money. It's just when you recognize it. So
right.
I don't look at those as really problems, I guess.
Right. The ARPA funds, I just put it all as revenue, and they said you need to put it as unearned revenue. Okay. It was a move. It's just reclass. These other three, the utilities, that's taking January, February, and March as billings and putting whatever share needs to go back in the prior year. And there was a calculation that the prior auditor had done, and they worked on it last year and actually did the entry last year, and then we just never communicated how that happened. And so now we've got it all figured out. So yeah, you're right. These are just journal entries that they had to do, so.
All in all, I think you should be complimented on what you're doing. I didn't see anything here that said, oh no, look out. So congratulations.
Right, thank you. So that's just information only, really, on that item, so.
Anything else to add, Greg, or any questions of Greg, anybody? No, thank you for going through it with us.
Sure.
And appreciate it. And I think Tom's recommendation is good, just to have him come for a separate finance and personnel is, isn't really necessary. Just let the rest of the finance and personnel committee know when it's going to be and they can come, which would be great. Because Tom had reached out to me, the day of or something. He's like, oh, Grace, and he couldn't make it. So, so just to let him know ahead of time would be great. Any other questions? Otherwise, we'll go on to item 8C, action on technology services contract.
So this contract is for Harbor Technologies, which, if any of you know, is Craig Kramer. Craig used to be our network administrator before Jeremy. He basically pulled us out of the dark ages and created a network and created email and all these computers and all this stuff. We have a small contract with him. He comes in and he basically provides more programming services. There's our building inspection software, our vehicle maintenance software, and he helps with a couple things with the website. And he just has invaluable service. He is not, since he went off of being that network administrator when Jeremy took over, he's charged us the same rate. And he came in my office and I said, well, I've been waiting for this for years for you. And that rate is significantly lower than anybody out there. And so what I'd like to do is I have a contract and I said, let's get a 5-year contract instead of doing these 1 years. And we actually have been out of contract for, I think, a year or two. And he's very limited in the amount of time and effort he gives us anyway. He has other jobs. I just think it's one of these, we didn't bid it out. It's a small, very niche market that he's handling. He also provides, when Jeremy's got to do weekends where he's got to switch over servers, he's always available to help, and that's invaluable to Jeremy because Craig still knows all of the intricacies of modifications that we've had to make over the system. So what I'd like to do is I propose this contract. I know it's an increase as of July 1, but he has plenty of unused hours this year that would cover that difference. We'd still probably be under budget, and we wouldn't even have to touch next year's budget because we'll work to the budget number, not number of hours. He's only coming in, I think I averaged out 375 hours, and we have currently like 500 in there at a lower rate. So there's plenty of wiggle room, at least get through there. And he's perfectly fine with, if we have side projects that might require more, I said, well, then we'd probably have to go to the committee and say, hey, can we have him come in? We don't know what 2 years is going to bring at this point. So I'd like to maintain the services, do a 5-year contract. I've listed out the rates and the years. And then at this point, there'd be no change to the budget or into 2023. And we can, as we get to 2024's budget, manage through time and effort. And we could have to propose potentially some change of the budget at that time, but it would be minimal. We're talking $5,000 or something. It's not a huge number. So what I'm looking for is your approval of the contract. This has been reviewed by legal, by our legal department, and there's nothing in here that's of any concern.
Maybe I missed it in here. What is his current hourly wage, Greg?
70.
70, so he went up $10 then per
Yeah.
hour. Okay.
Yeah, we pay $200 an hour for some software contractors, and it's,
Yeah, I was gonna say $80 is a deal.
Yeah.
And it seems like he has, the institutional knowledge that would be extremely hard to bring in another provider up to speed on.
right.
Yeah, he's been here a long time and he's done a really good job. And like Greg said, when he first started, he was an employee of the village and then
Yep.
stepped back, but he certainly knows his stuff. He's good. So it would be nice to keep him on board. So
I'll move to approve it.
Second.
moved in second. All those I'm sorry, go ahead. Any discussion? Oh, Did you have anything else? No.
You second already.
Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, everybody. Any items for the next agenda that anybody wants to suggest? Otherwise, if you have any, please reach out to me, to Greg or to Joel or whoever, to give them any items. With that, I would welcome a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn?
Second.
Moved and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, everybody.
This conference is no longer